And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the HomeStory Cup 26 replay cast of the group stage. We've already covered the replays of, or the remaining replays of Group A, of Group B, and now we're here towards the tail end of Group C. We have two series remaining here, two best of threes. Up next, we have Reynor versus DnS, followed by Clem versus Mana. Oh boy, a ZvP and a TvP to end the day, to end the broadcast, and we're jumping into game one. It's going to be on ley lines. Let's go. Again, especially Group C, there were just so many good matches. I mean, as you can imagine, a group with Gabe, a group with Reynor, a group with Clem as well. As you can imagine, the mainstream did cover a lot of those matches as they did face off against each other, but we are here to cover at least some of their other matches here against some of the other more lesser known players. We're here for it, we're ready for it. As spawning in the bottom left hand corner of ley lines, we have the Italian Zerg player, the blue Zerg, representing Basilisk. It is Reynor. And spawning in the top right hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the French Protoss player, the red Protoss. It is DnS. We go. Again, DnS, he did have a good showing against Gabe earlier. They did face off in a TvP and they went all the way to the ace match. And even then, I will reiterate, DnS, he almost took Gabe. Straight up, he almost took him down 2-0. I mean, I say that game one was just really chaotic. It was just really wild. It was just a really chaotic game, really scrappy game as well, back and forth. Game one was on King's Cove, so I do recommend checking out the VODs of that series if you missed out on it. Otherwise, here we are settling into our ZvP, and we did just see Reynor bleed here against Mana. Mana did pop off with his own style, with his, of course, Archon-based opener. Something that I should emphasize is that is very stylistic to Mana. I say to Mana, some of the other Polish Protoss players as well. Specifically, Cristiano plays something similarly. With Cristiano, he also does embrace a very heavy Archon Immortal composition. Cristiano, he is less active. He's less micro-oriented early on, though. He just builds up towards a death ball and just sends it across the map and just overwhelms. It's crazy. Mana's more active with his opener instead. But again, it's very much so stylistic and very much so very niche, is what I will say. And players like DnS, players like any other standard Protoss player, they don't typically embrace that style. So we should be seeing something different, something more standard, something like a Stargate opener into a third base, into triple Oracle, into +1 Blink Stalkers, much more standard setup here from DnS. At least that's what we're expecting. We'll see if that's what he brings to the table. Here we go. So we are setting up, and we're settling in. And as a result, we should be seeing Reynor looking a lot more comfortable. The upside of playing such a more odd and such a unique style is that I'm sure a lot of the competitors don't really have as much experience with it. So that also goes in favor of Mana, is that, again, I don't know how often Reynor does play against Mana, for example, and how much practice he has with him, how much Reynor grinds on the ladder. But here against DnS, he should be playing a lot more meta here, as it is going to be the Stargate opener initially. Stargate is on the way. DnS settling in, pulling away his worker, moving out with his adepts to harass, to apply some pressure, to keep tabs on Reynor to make sure there's no early gases, no early spawning pool, no early roach warren, what I meant to say, no early tech. As DnS, he will poke in. And we have our first unit of choice. It is going to be the Oracle. Okay, it's going to be the Oracle opener. There's no Void Ray, there's no Phoenix, there's no crazy start out of DnS, and this should just lead into an expansion. At least it should. DnS shading into that natural. Two adepts taking one-shot workers, and he commits a shade. Does commit in, he gets one, he gets one, he gets two. He barely does not get a third, so two drones go down. Lings, they will shut this down, they will punish, and the adepts, they will fall. Was this worth it for DnS? He gets 3 drone kills, that is okay damage, but the downside of losing your adepts means you cannot hold the third. Reynor, he can now move out across the map. There is nothing to keep these Lings pinned. The Oracle does get eyes on the Lings, and DnS, he should be contained. You can see here he attempts to expand, but the Lings are here to deny. So the expansion is going to be delayed. Across the map, the Oracle has Riot Queen somewhat in position. The Oracle does not get a drone. Barely not. There we go. One drone goes down, but for a lot of hull damage, and DnS, he is contained on 2 bases. For those that are curious, if DnS did not lose those adepts, if he kept them back at home instead, then he would have had 2 adepts initially to protect the first probe to expand. Meanwhile, Lings, they get a surround, they shut down one of the adepts. They take down the probe as well. Another big delay. Ay, ay, ay. And DnS, he's just punished for being overly aggressive in the early game. As it all just snowballs out of control, a third probe going to be going down. Can he expand? Oh, he cannot. No. He just wants a third. And with that back at home, Reynor, he's just been droning. Like, he hasn't been making extra links. He's just been droning back at home, saturating his bases. Settling in towards the mid game, towards eventually a lair, into Roach Warren, or into Evo Chamber. Reynor looking very comfortable. Finally, DnS does expand, but again, a very late expansion. And to make up for it, there's no earlier attack or anything like that. No earlier Forge or Twilight Council. Everything here is just going to be delayed for DnS. Now, Reynor does get supply blocked as the Overlord did go down, and we have 3 more Overlords on the way. Ay, ay, ay. We'll slow him down. Do have the 5-minute Roach Warren timing here, so very safe timing with the Roach Warren. The pressure is on DnS to counterattack. And what is there for him to defend? Remember, due to the supply block, Reynor, his production has been delayed. That is going to be 3 adepts moving in, soon to be a 4th. 4 adepts, they threaten the shade. Lings are required. But DnS doesn't commit, and Reynor, he does reinforce in time. The Lings have arrived. They do make it in time. As DnS is forced back. DnS forced to retreat. Reynor taking up into his lair. Lings are moving out for a counterattack. Back at home, what is it to defend? There is a shield battery. There's a sentry as well with force fields. But late reaction, and the sentry is going to be surrounded. The shield battery does help. At the same time, DnS, he might just commit. As the sentry does fall. Nice pick off here from Reynor. DnS, he does commit in. 2 adepts into the third, 2 adepts into the natural. Drones are going down. Reynor getting pulled apart a little bit here. Losing 8, 9, 10 drone kills. Ay, ay, ay. This should not have happened. Reynor was distracted. 11 workers falling. And DnS, he's still in this. Oh, even getting another drone in the main. And Reynor is counterattacking. At this point, he's just, oh my god, he's all in. Reynor, he's completely all in. Cutting workers at 43. Moving out with Roaches. Ravagers, the Dropper Lords have arrived. Queens are moving out as well. And it's all or nothing for Reynor. Back at home, DnS doesn't really have much to work with, though. He went double robo. Did invest the money here into more production, not into his army itself. He's down to 2 Stalkers, 2 Stalkers, 3 Oracles. There's just nothing here to defend. Reynor, he will just snowball out of control. He will break this third. As the first Oracle is targeted down. Immortal, it has arrived, but again, it's just a sole singular Immortal on its own. Doesn't really pose so much of a threat. Lings, they collapse on the army. Third base has been broken, but Reynor doesn't care about the third. He's pushing into the main. Oh, nice force field. Will slow down the army, but GG gets called. There's just too much to handle, and Reynor will take game number 1. GG. GG, well played. Reynor will take a lead in the series. And again, for Reynor to have decided to go for the all-in makes sense, especially after such a strong start. To heavily delay the third base as long as he did just set up for he was set up for success. Was set up for the all-in, as Reynor was going for that even before he had lost all those workers. He was already committed with Overlord speed, with the Roach production, with the Dropper Lords. Was already committing into it. With that, GG well played. And again, you can see just how quickly things can snowball out of control here at the highest level of play. If you lose 2 adepts early on, I mean, that can cost you the game. Not saying that that was game then and there, but I mean, we saw what that led into, right? We saw just how heavily delayed the third base was. On the flip side of things, if you're in that position, you can try to tech faster instead. If you know that, okay, I lost my adepts, I can't expand and take a third base, I can't hold on to it, let me throw down like earlier gateways, earlier Forge, earlier Twilight Council to invest my money into something. We saw that instead DnS, he kept trying to re-expand and kept failing to do so, and he didn't spend his money on tech, so he just fell behind, period. Just fell behind in the end. GG well played, and that leads us into game number 2. Here we go. The pressure's on DnS to bounce back, to recover, and to force the ace match, as game 2 is going to be on Amygdala. And I feel a little bit robbed because I was talking earlier about how, like, okay, you know, we expect some more standard play here out of DnS, like we expect a more standard back and forth in the mid game, like a more meta ZvP, but we were denied that just because everything snowballed out of control so quickly, so early on. We weren't able to really get a glimpse of what DnS was made of in this matchup. And we'll see if we can get into it here on a much larger map. As spawning in the top right hand corner of Amygdala, we have the Italian Zerg player, the Blue Zerg, representing Basilisk, leading the series 1-0. It is Reynor. And spawning in the bottom left hand corner, we have his opponents. We have the French Protoss player, the Red Protoss. Down in the series, we'll see if he can bounce back, and we'll see if he can force the ace match. It is DnS. Here we go. Oh, but thank you so much, Fractal, in the chat. Gracias, gracias. Thank you, thank you. TCG Jin saying, need that honey tea on those days. 100%, 100%. I think I've already said that on stream, but yes, for those longer broadcast days, whether it's HomeStory Cup, whether it's IEM Katowice, whether it's a DreamHack, whether it's a House of Galactic Battle, for example, like these big, like 10+ hour casts, that's my secret, pappy. The tea with honey. It lubes up the throat. Unironically, though, like it carries me through those days. Keeps me going. So now we are going to settle in. So far we have our standard openers from both sides. Nothing too crazy, nothing too wild. I know that some voice actors, or I think even Total Biscuit, I think he spoke about how they would even, for like a long broadcasting day, they would actually like get like olive oil or something and like have like a teaspoon of it, and that soothes the throat as well. I have yet to do that. I'm good with my tea. I'm good. I know that's what some people do. So far, we do have our standard setups here. DnS with the pylon going for the Stargate. We have our initial tech of choice. Once again, looking as it should. And we'll see if DnS is as aggressive and as assertive with his adepts. On the one hand, I do think you can get away with being aggressive here on this map early on with your first 2 units, and even losing them just because of how much longer the rush distance is by ground. So it takes longer for the Lings to counterattack and to move out across the map. So you could argue that maybe DnS can get away with that sort of thing here a little bit more on Amygdala. Oh, as that is not an Oracle, never mind. It's going to be a Void Ray. Interesting. We have a Void Ray opener out of DnS. With this Void Ray, the goal is to hunt down the Overlords and to deny vision and deny scouting, to keep Reynor in the dark. Okay. Now, once again, when it comes to a Void Ray opener, it can be to high tech, to go into a second Stargate, to go for a Tempest Rush, to go for a Mothership Rush. We can go into a fast Twilight Council, into Charge. Oh, speaking of fast tech, that is the fast Evo Chamber. My apologies, I did miss that. Fast Evo Chamber into plus on melee. This looks like Ling Hydra out of Reynor. It looks like Reynor, he intends on skipping and delaying Roach production. Meanwhile, the Void Ray does reveal itself, hunts down the Overlord. But again, the power of the Void Ray opener is that, yes, you can hide tech, as Reynor is supply blocked. You can hide your tech, or you might not. It might just be a third base into second and third Oracle, into a Forge and Twilight Council, into plus on a Blink. It could just be a standard game out of DnS. It could not. The point is, though, that Reynor doesn't know. As is forced to pull back all his Overlords, you can see they all converge here at the natural. Reynor just focusing on those rocks at the fourth, at the gold. And we do see the DnS is looking for another Overlord. He is looking to hunt them down. Alas, Reynor does pull back in time. His Overlords should be safe. Should be safe. As the Void Ray pokes in, gets a drone, gets one worker. Their base getting up and running. Ooh, interesting follow-up. As DnS, he goes for a Robo. Now, with a Robo follow-up like this feels a little bit old school. Reynor, meanwhile, we spoke earlier, +1 melee typically means Ling Hydra, means no roaches, and as we can see, there's no Roach Warren. No Roach Warren, straight into Lair, straight into, sorry, Lair here at the natural, straight into Hydras, I would imagine. The faster Robo feels like Robo into Forge, into +1, into Bay, into fast Colossus production. Which again, we used to see a lot more frequently back in the, oh god, what was the name of the map? Back in the map, the Altitude, that's it, back in the Altitude map pool. This was what, 2 years ago, I think? Like 2022, maybe coming into 2023. Was a lot more popular back then. Now, maybe it's nostalgia, but I kind of do miss Altitude a little bit. Maybe it's because we barely cast on it. Even though I did veto the hell out of that map and never played on it myself, but it's fine. And speaking of, yeah, there it is. There's, as we mentioned, Robo into Bay into second Robo. So again, this is very much the old school from, I say old school, a couple of years ago, going into mass Colossus production early on. This is a more defensive style. Basically, you stay back at home, you build up a death pool of an army of Colossus, of Immortals, then you slowly get a fourth base, and then you push out. Creator, if you remember, Creator used to be very fond of this. Not just Creator, Showtime as well. Showtime used to be very fond of this build, likewise. This was also back, I think it might have been the same map pool of not just Altitude, but was it also Ancient Cistern? I think? Ancient Cistern, Era of StarCraft, Altitude. I think the map pool just before Gressvan. Anyway, that era. As the robes are done, and then we go making 2 Colossus at a time. And I believe this should hit with +2. +1 is halfway done, can then get into +2. As long as they poke in, they pull out. Now, likewise, as DnS is teching and as DnS is being defensive, Reynor has free reign to tech himself. And he has been doing so, you know, getting into his own Hydra production. I do think that Reynor could be more greedy. Like, we could be seeing here at this moment, Infestation Pit, Lurker Den, Hive, into Vipers as well. That's typically how you deal with this, with like a heavy fast Colossus count, is Vipers completely shut this down. But as we can see, Reynor, it looks like he's intending on maxing out with purely Ling Hydra. He's cutting worker production. He's going all in. I mean, kind of. You can see Reynor, he's cutting workers at 63, that is 3 base saturation, but he has the gold base. So really it's a boosted 3 base economy for Reynor, but he's knocking down all the rocks, and Reynor, he's not droning any further. And as you mentioned, he's not taking into Lurkers, he's not taking into Hive, he is just fully focused on Ling Hydra. Is this enough though? Can Reynor break his opponents? I mean, there's not really much support for the Colossus. True, the Colossus, they're on their own. Where's the support? Where are the warp ins? It's just 2 Colossus, a Sentry, an Immortal, 1 Zealot, and a Dream. And here come the Lings, here come the Hydras, he collapses on the army. No, where's the shield batteries? Shield batteries too far away. Colossus goes down, he gets 1, he gets 2, and with that, Reynor, he has broken the back of DnS. The whole purpose was to build up Colossus, get up to 4 Colossi, then move out, but alas, he did not get there. He was caught with the pants, they were down, Papi, they were down. Again, was not in position, was here at the 4th, at least with the Zealots. Another Colossus does arrive, but again, they're exposed. They're on their own. And Reynor, he goes to the dive. GG gets called, and Reynor, he will take the series 2-0. GG. GG, well played, Reynor. He will claim the series. Once again, I feel like DnS couldn't really play StarCraft in this series. Game 1, if you remember, he was just denied his 3rd base over and over again, and he was killed by an all-in. Here in Game 2, we saw DnS's build. Of course, it is a very greedy build. That is true, and it takes a bit to get away with that sort of thing. So he was exposed, he was caught off guard, he was caught with his pants down. Yes, he had Colossus, but he had no support. He was still waiting for his 3rd and 4th. Like, if he had waited, if Reynor had taken a little bit longer, if he had waited a couple of seconds, then honestly, DnS, he would have had 4 Colossi. He would have had those reinforcing Colossi come in, had 4 together, and he probably would have been able to defend himself. Just have the Colossus defend the Colossus and just snowball out of control. But alas, Reynor, he hit just in time, did strike with his own quote-unquote 3 base all-in. I say quote-unquote just because he had the gold base, so you know, he had even more money to work with than usual. And with that, GG. He was able to shut down DnS before he could really get things going. was able to shut him down, and with that, Reynor, he will take the series 2-0, and we have one series remaining here for the broadcast. For Group C, we have one series left. It's going to be a TVP between Clem and Mana. Oh boy. Now, we saw how well Mana performed again. Wait, no, my apologies. I was mixing up some players. We saw how well DnS performed against Gabe. We have yet to really cast Mana against a Terran player here tonight, so I'm curious to see how he performs against Clem. Let's go. Mana, of course, he has been on the rise skill-wise. He's been leveling up. He's been taking down a lot of these bigger and stronger names. I mean, here, even tonight, we saw him go to the ace match against Reynor, but we'll see how he compares to Clem. Oh boy. Clem is arguably the best player in the world.